With 2 AEW stars out with injuries and more, this is Wrestling Hub. My name is John, and you're watching the Wrestling Report for May 12th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Hub and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram at WrestlingHubOfficial and also follow us on Twitter at Wrestling_Hub. After his absence from NXT due to his health issues related to his heart, Triple H would return to his duties at WWE but retired from in-ring competition. Speaking to Talk Sport, Drew McIntyre revealed how much he wanted to face Triple H. "I pitched at every opportunity I could. How about us at WrestleMania? What's the story?" Triple H said, and I'd say, "What's the story? We'll figure it out. But what about you and me at WrestleMania? How awesome would that be?" "We got in the ring together a few times during my first run, but when I returned, we did do a match in Japan that was really cool. We got in the ring together, we didn't have anything in mind. We just went for it. It was cool to go back and forth a little bit, and you understand just how good he is, what a ring general he is." With Cody Rhodes departing AEW to return to WWE, AEW President Tony Khan was asked by News 12 about how Rhodes leaving has affected the company, to which he replied, "Cody was a great person from the start of AEW. He's a great wrestler and somebody I really liked and respect very much and will always wish him the best." The timing of it was a lot of big stars coming in around the same time, of course, CM Punk, Adam Cole, Bryan Danielson coming in, and there was a period of time where some of the top stars like Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley were both out, and now both have come back better than ever. Cody was a top star for us at the beginning, and we've sustained, I think, and come out stronger than ever this year on TBS with Dynamite and a particular pay-per-view. We just did one of our biggest pay-per-views ever with Revolution and set a record there. So it was kind of a pay-per-view without him. We had done a pay-per-view not long ago without him, and so, done All Out and Revolution, which are the two biggest shows we've ever done on pay-per-view, and he wasn't on those shows. So I think we've sustained with big stars coming in, CM Punk among them, and now the emergence of Hangman Page as the top champion, and big stars have come along in the meantime. It's helped a lot. He's a huge star now too, not just here in AEW. He'd been all over the world, and it's come full circle for him in a lot of ways, and again, I wish him the best. During an interview on the Swerve City podcast, Tony Khan revealed that he has used ideas from fans for AEW programming. "I do think we get good ideas from it, being connected with the fans and the other wrestlers. You get ideas. Not every idea is possible. Sometimes there are good ideas you just can't do. There's probably, with one or two wrestlers alone, there's probably 76, 78 different opponents that they could have, but there are only so many people you can wrestle, especially at the same time. I think you do get great ideas from there. How do you incorporate them? But there are some simple things, like I saw somebody saying we should use the moving graphics for the pay-per-view. I was going to shoot Punk and Hangman for the match this past week, but then Hangman had COVID, so he was out. So we were going to shoot him next week, but we shot Punk, and people were really excited. And it was this guy on Twitter. I told him it was a good idea." At WrestleMania 38, Kevin Owens had the opportunity to go one-on-one with Stone Cold Steve Austin in a no-holds-barred match. Recalling the events that led up to them facing off, Owens said on the Tim Donnelly Show, "I really didn't know what to expect. That's the funny part. I knew he and I were going to be in the same ring. I knew we were going to talk some trash, obviously, and I had a pretty good feeling it was going to break down into a fight at some point. But I had no idea the scope of the fight. Everybody loved it so much, everybody watching it. More importantly, I speak for myself, but I think I can speak for him as well. The two people doing it in the ring had as much fun as everybody watching." Speaking to comicbook.com, CM Punk talked about not having expectations when it came to making his pro wrestling return for AEW. "This run has been more than what I expected. I had expectations. They were pretty high. So far, they've pretty much shattered all that, and that's just based on analytics and numbers of how well we're doing. But the run, my run specifically, my stuff as a whole, I've never been happier in a wrestling ring. I've never, to me, been telling more fluid, better, reality-based stories. It's been a real treat." During that same interview, comicbook.com would ask CM Punk, "You guys are heading back to Chicago for AEW X NJPW Forbidden Door on June 26th. There's a guy over in New Japan that keeps calling you out on Twitter every chance he gets, and that's Kenta. Does that match interest you at all?" To which Punk simply said no. Kenta would reply on Twitter writing, "Ha ha ha, perfect answer. Zero interest and keep using my finish. What garbage." During the For the Love of Wrestling convention in Liverpool, WWE Hall of Famer Trish Stratus recalled the infamous Bark Like a Dog segment with Vince McMahon, to which he revealed she was into the idea. "Vince pitched the angle to me like this. So we're going to have this angle where you are barking like a dog and get really humiliated and basically hit rock bottom." And I was like, amazing, because I knew a couple of weeks later I would be getting my comeuppance on him, and I would be slapping him on the grandest stage of them all, which is WrestleMania, and turning on him. I was going on to stand up for myself, not needing a man to lean on, and fighting for what I needed to fight for. I get questioned about that a lot, and most people go, "Oh, remember you had to bark like a dog and you had to do that thing that was so degrading, right?" For the character, it was, yeah, but that was what the character had to go through. We don't talk to Halle Berry when she had to get abused by so-and-so, you know, it's a character. That for me was integral for the character to be at that rock bottom, to have the foresight to say, "I can break free from this. I won't let this happen to me again, and let's move on." And you know what, 22 years, we're still talking about it. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer discussed the rumors of Roman Reigns taking time off from WWE, as he is expected to be around less frequently than Brock Lesnar. Basically, Roman Reigns is not going to be on every pay-per-view. He's off the Chicago show. He will be doing pay-per-views this summer, even though he was removed from all the advertising after June 24th. I believe it is, he had June 24th in Austin. He's been removed from all advertising from house shows, TVs, everything except for the 2 stadium shows. But he will do TVs to build up those shows. So it's not like he's not going to be on TV, but he's not going to be doing a lot of dates, and from what I understand, the shows he will be on eventually, they'll start advertising him. The dates will be known. It's not like it's going to be live. They're going to put him on TV without advertising him, but that's the basic situation. I think he's going to be on more shows than Lesnar, but not appreciably more. No singles champion. When he was in the pay-per-view, he said after the pay-per-view that this may be the last time he does a 6-man tag with the Usos, so he's not planning on anything like that. The next championship match will be July the 2nd, so they have all of these house shows with no champion. It would also be noted that SmackDown is potentially facing a crisis on the roster over this, but it's still a weird one that you unify a title and have a guy not on pay-per-views. It is very strange to do it that way. I don't know what they're going to do for Chicago. I guess they're just going to do a Hell in a Cell match, right? I don't know who will be in it, or maybe there will be multiple ones. Maybe that's where Seth and Cody comes in Hell in a Cell. Is there anybody else? You look at that SmackDown roster and you take Roman Reigns out of the mix. I mean, I don't even know what you do at house shows. If you have a weekend where you have 2 house shows a night instead of 1, what do you really have? Even with these singular house shows where you can use guys from both brands, the top match that they're advertising now for the house shows once Reigns stops going on house shows is Seth and Cody. It's not a ton of depth on the SmackDown side. The number 1 champion would be Ricochet, I suppose, but the star is Drew. But then who would Drew wrestle? Sheamus? Corbin? It's not a lot of depth. Also, on Wrestling Observer Radio, it was mentioned that WWE's guaranteed money from their streaming deal with NBCU's Peacock allowed the company to not be too worried about the absence of Roman Reigns. One of the things that happened is when the first night of WrestleMania did so well, essentially it did the same as the second night. And the thought always was that you need champions to defend both nights or you could not have a WrestleMania. Then they did a very successful show on the Saturday night with no men's titles. They had 2 women's title matches, but no men's title match. It kind of is like, well, you know, we don't need it as much as we thought we did. So there's that. That's part of it, and the other one is that the pay-per-view money is guaranteed. So it's like if you need a championship match for a pay-per-view to draw on pay-per-view, it doesn't really matter because that money is guaranteed anyway. All they have to do is put on a show and people will watch the show for free or they won't, whatever the situation is. Without a big money cost for the show, the barrier to entry is much, much lower. It's like people will watch if it's convenient. If a big title match, of course, that should help. But nowadays, the viewing audience of wrestling wrestling is really not on a pay-per-view show, a real pay-per-view show where you have to pay $50 or something like that. Yes, the matches make probably a pretty big difference as far as how many people are going to buy and things like that. But when it comes to television, when it comes to what WWE does, premium live events that essentially people will watch for free or for $5 depending on your cable company, it's really a lot more determined by what else is going on in the world. If there's competing events, then less people will buy. It's not really the attraction of your show. It doesn't matter. We'll put on a show and people will watch, or they won't watch based on other things. But it's not like if we put on Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, and people have been waiting for it and everything like that, and we do a good build-up. Is it going to make any difference in WWE's money? Maybe a few tickets, but not that many extra tickets. Appreciably, no. It's a different era, so they can get away with not having a champion. It's not as important as it was in the past. In some unfortunate news, it seems 2 AEW stars are going to be out with injuries, as Layla Hirsch was apparently injured on Dark Elevation, with that match ending early. It was reported by PW Insider that no one has confirmed this officially to me, but the belief among talents is that she tore her ACL and or MCL, which if that is the case, likely means she's going to need or had surgery and she'll be out rehabbing. If we confirm 100%, we'll update. Also, former AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida was injured, as Meltzer reported. They mentioned that Hikaru Shida is out of the tournament due to injuries in the street fight, although she's been wrestling in Japan, so I presume she must have gotten hurt in Japan, because they have been building her for the tournament. Chris Statlander will be taking her place next week. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.